I'm walking down the street on clouds instead of the concrete. I'm dancing through. Everything's about to come my way.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Hickson, and I spent 5 years working my way up to the top of an MLM before realizing they're just not all that they're cracked up to be. My goal with this channel is to rescue some Huns, to prevent them from becoming Huns, and to also give those a voice who have left the Hunbot industry like myself.
It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can hear my calling.
All right, you guys, as you can tell, I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather today. I don't have much of a voice, so I figured it'd be a perfect opportunity to get another creator on here and have her answer some questions for us. If you guys haven't heard, I know I've been kind of like out of the loop recently, but if you guys haven't heard, the FTC is opening up for public commentary for income earnings claims within MLMs. So Michelle goes into, oh, by the way, my guest is going to be Michelle. Michelle Carpenter goes into all of the details surrounding the FTC public commentary opportunity, and she even created a website that makes it easier for people to leave public commentary. I know that public commentary can be a little bit overwhelming. So we kind of talk a little bit about different ideas and approaches you can take in creating your public comment. Everyone's public comment matters. It doesn't matter if it's 3 words or 3 paragraphs, 3 pages. Don't care. We would love to hear from you. The FTC, I guess, would love to hear from you. And you can even leave comments anonymously if you're worried about that. So Michelle, like I said, goes into a lot more detail in this Zoom call that we did together. But just a little intro. Michelle is one of my good friends. I met her through the anti-MLM community. We're in a couple of group chats together, and I just absolutely adore her. I've shouted out her small business at one point, but I let her give a little subtle plug in this Zoom call as well. So you guys will hear a little bit about her small business. Other than that, I hope you guys love her as much as I do. I will leave all of her social media links and everything else in the description below. So let's go ahead and meet Michelle. I really liked the conversation that we had on Roberta's live chat that one day.
Yeah.
And so I want to cover some of the same things, but I think what we should start out with is you just kind of explaining like why we're able to openly comment and like the kind of like the history of, you know, this is the first time in 10 years or however long it's been since we've been able to. I think you're a lot more knowledgeable about all of that part of it than I am. So you're the best person to probably talk about that. So we'll start with that. Okay. And I'll do like, actually, hold on, rewind. I wanted to make like your small business, the small business shout out for this video that I'm going to be uploading. So if you want to give yourself a little like subtle, not subtle plug, do you have any of like your items or anything around you?
I'm sure I do. Don't judge me. They're like all scattered around on the floor around me. So,
oh, no judgment here. If you saw the room that I'm in right now, I'm in the toy room, if that tells you anything. So first, what is your small business called? Where can they find you?
Well, my business is called Spoon Stop. I have a website that most of my items can be found on in the shop section, which is just spoonstop.com. I do most of my selling on Etsy, so that's also Spoonstop as well. I do have some listings for customized face masks, but most of what I do is just anti-MLM merch, mostly stickers. I make t-shirts like this one for fun. May possibly sell them in the future, but haven't really had an interest. My favorite are the essential oil ones that I made that I did like don't for the name of the company. Yeah. But I did like the O, like they do in doTERRA. Uh-huh. And it just says snake oil on it. Okay. So yeah, some of my favorite stickers that I've made though, like I originally got the idea from Roberta. We were chatting for her podcast and this was back over like Thanksgiving break. And my episode with her didn't come out until a few months later. So I had plenty of time in between to kind of stew on everything that we talked about. And one of the things she mentioned was how funny it would be to have a sticker with Deanne Stidham's face, except instead of like an actual face with facial features, it just had like a nasty quote from her.
Yeah.
And so I did make that. I'll send you pictures of these so that you can show them better. But
Yeah.
this one says 5 minutes on your knees, girls.
Oh my, wait, she said that. Oh, she said that in the documentary. Like
She
somebody
said-
mentioned it.
Yeah, she said, like, all you have to do is spend 5 minutes on your knees a day or something like that. I feel like maybe it was talking about like praying, but that's not how it came across.
Well,
And
and
then-
because I think she used it in the context of like talking about how to get your husbands on board. And so it seemed like it could have gone that way.
Exactly. So gross. Ew. Ugh. The other one says, oh, she only got 2 likes. That's sad. And that's actually something that she said in her deposition.
Yeah, I remember
to
that.
The state of Washington. Oh my God. Just
I
how
remember that.
unprofessional can you be?
Yeah. Cool. So they can find you on Etsy. They can find you on your website, and I'll link it all down below too. But I think I shouted you out in another video, like when you sent me that stuff. But
Yeah.
what's the problem with 2? Let's just jump into kind of like the history of why it's such a big deal that we get to leave public commentary on this specific subject, and kind of maybe go into like what the specific subject is. So not just like, we're not just commenting on like MLMs as a whole. We're commenting on like the regulation, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. The thing that we're dealing with right now, the opportunity that we have to actually make change, it hasn't happened in the MLM world since 2011 when the FTC implemented the business opportunity rule, which if you read the text of the business opportunity rule, it reads like it was written for MLMs specifically, but they're one of the only like gig jobs that are actually excluded from it. And in my opinion, that's because of the vast number of public comments that were submitted in opposition to enforcing this rule on MLMs. There were 17,000 public comments in 2011 on the business opportunity rule, and all of them, most of them, but yeah, all of them are just copy and paste comments that one of the Amway teams told their downline to do or something like that. The DSA and all of these companies individually, with all of the people that they have, in their control and in their power, can just churn out a massive number of copy and paste comments. And that, in my opinion, is what happened. And there wasn't really an online anti-MLM movement. There wasn't, a whole lot of excitement or a lot of people coming out about their stories at the time. There weren't many public comments in support of implementing that rule on MLMs. I know that it's scary that the DSA has so much power and there's so much money, in the politics around MLMs, but like at some point I feel like you have to put your trust in the government agencies that regulate this kind of thing to an extent. Do I think that they can be corrupted by the DSA? Yes. But I also know for a fact that we weren't around in 2011 when this was allowed to happen. So what's happening now is that there is, in February, they gave an advance notice of proposed rulemaking, so if I say the FTC ANPR, I'm referring to this proposed rulemaking. The way that all federal agencies implement new rules and regulations, they all have to go through the same process. After they announce that they're considering implementing new rules, they all go through a 60-day public comment phase, where on the Federal Register, which is just regulations.gov, the text of the proposed rulemaking or whatever questions they need answers from the public on in order to make those new rules and regulations, those are all published to the Federal Register for 60 days. And the public has that time to go in and say, well, I agree with this. I don't agree with this. This is why this is important. basically anything you want, and it can be anonymous. That you don't even have to be a US citizen. I've literally gone in and done an anonymous one just to see how much information they ask for. If you check mark, I want to do this anonymously, you just submit your comment. That's it. With that background, I think it's really, really important that we take this opportunity to actually have our voices heard in this, because like I said, we haven't had the opportunity to speak out about this to the FTC in this capacity since the anti-MLM movement really even began. And I say that, I'm referring to the anti-MLM, like I say hashtag anti-MLM movement, because it's the online movement. It's you, it's me, it's Chelsea, it's Roberta and Mallory and Savannah Marie and Hannah Alonzo, and, all of these people who are using their platforms to get the word out online, share people's stories. And that all happened within the last 10 years. So we don't know, honestly, we don't know whether those 17,000 comments are what excluded MLMs from the business opportunity rule. I think that they probably didn't help our cause.
Yeah, I think that a part of it could probably be that MLMs have changed a lot over the last 10 years. And so those public comments all being from people in MLMs, the people on the opposing side really didn't have much of an argument, because at the time they weren't as predatory. They weren't, making all of these income claims, all of these health claims. It was more of like a door-to-door and like party scenario type thing.
Yeah.
And so if people aren't bringing these other issues to the attention of the people who matter, who are, putting these regulations in place, then they're not even going to know that the issues exist. So I think it's really important for all of us to bring, different perspectives to the table.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a way different world that we live in now, especially after 2 years of lockdown. People are doing absolutely everything on social media platforms. Really, you're working from your phone, you're working from your computer, you're working at home. And this is kind of a tangent, but you don't have your boss looking over your shoulder and noticing that you're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook. People are spending so much time online. It's ridiculous. And so it's become very easy for MLMs to take advantage of just the viral aspect and the ease with which you can deceive people online. You can make up a whole different life and portray that as your life online. And I think that actually is a good point to bring up to the FTC, because one of the things that they are considering making rules on is lifestyle claims. Mm-hmm. So this proposed rulemaking, it's not a proposed rule yet, because they haven't even decided what they want to go into it at this point, which is, in my opinion, even better, because it means we can influence that. Mm-hmm. They're mainly focused on earnings claims, but they're also considering limiting how much reps can make luxury lifestyle claims. Like, they're specifically asking the public a set of questions, and one of the questions talks about, do you think it would be possible to regulate luxury lifestyle claims? Like, it's very, very open-ended. If anyone, does have any ideas as to how that could potentially be regulated, that's important information to include in a comment. But really, just hearing that it's a problem is enough. I don't want to scare anyone away from commenting because they think it has to be good or
or that it has to
or anything like that.
Or that it has to be like all encompassing, and that you have to cover all, like, just cover the bases that feel most important to you, because we're trying to encourage everyone to leave their comments. And so if everyone's leaving a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I think they're gonna get the gist of it. Let's talk about some things that people may not have even considered before this. Like we were talking about on Roberta's live, how when I was in, like, I didn't see a problem with some of the things I was doing because I didn't know that they were wrong. And I never thought of like an alternative to it. Like, I never thought of the fact that MLM reps, they have no regulation on what time they contact people, but a telemarketer can't contact anyone past a certain time.
Yeah.
So when you guys were first talking about, let's talk about the different regulations that they could put in place or whatever, and you were talking about how MLMs don't really have any regulation, I was like, well, like, yeah, they do. Cause like we always would get told, you can't post the dollar amount, whatever. Like in my head, I saw it from only the MLM side. And I didn't realize that there are so many other factors that could be regulated that could prevent this type of stuff from happening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those things.
I'd love to. So I have submitted a couple of anonymous comments here and there on the ANPR, but I have not submitted my big one with my receipts and everything attached to it. However, I've just been writing it, for a month. And the biggest thing that I hadn't thought about until I think it was, and by the way, I'm sorry. I've actually had comments in some of my YouTube videos, so you can put this little spiel somewhere in the video if you want, but I have EDS, which it's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder. It makes my life, well, this, you have it too, don't you? I am in pain all the time and I cannot find a comfortable position. So I'm always like moving around, and I've had some people on YouTube point out that it's kind of distracting. So I apologize.
Girl,
I have no control over it.
You have no clue like how many comments I get that are like, girl, I'm sorry, but like, I love
you
your
need
channel.
A more comfortable chair.
No, they don't even get mad about that. I don't know how, because I'm constantly like back and forth and whatever, but they always comment on, I have an anxious yawn, and I just yawn a lot when I'm filming.
I've never noticed that.
And people get I never do it like while I'm talking. It's like when the video's playing, I'll yawn, and I have TMJ, and so I can't open my mouth all the way. So I get like, my mouth goes really like, it like shivers or something. And they'll be like, I love your channel, but like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch you if you can't get that under control. I'm
my
like,
word,
bitch, bye. So no harm here.
Awesome. One of the things, I think it must have been either Bill Keep or Doug Brooks. And I think that they were talking about this on the Recovering Hun Bots show. She did a really excellent interview with both of them together.
I love her channel. I just think it's so like informational based, and she is just very factual about everything.
Yes. And she's very there. Like she goes live almost every day. It's wild.
Yeah, she's such an eloquent speaker too. Like she puts things in such a good way that I'm just like, do you have like cue cards up here that you're reading? Because my brain just gets so jumbled when I'm filming. I even like things that I know I want to say and I mean to say in one way, they just come out a totally different way.
Same. I'm very articulate. Like I can craft a professional email like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But don't try and ask me to say the exact same thing with words. Like
Nope.
verbally, it's not going. See, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, she's awesome. And she did do an interview. It's on the mlmchange.org website. It's embedded and there's a link to it. They did an interview conversation that was specifically about this FTC ANPR. And one thing that one of them mentioned that kind of just made something click for me was that in some industries, and don't ask me to cite which ones, but in some industries, there are things like a cooling period or a waiting period. And this would be, as applied to MLMs, it would be basically once you're pitched the opportunity and you are provided with accurate income disclosures, you then have to wait some given amount of time. For me, I think it could be 48 hours. I think it could be 2 weeks, whatever, before you can actually pay them the money and sign on. And I think personally that this falls exactly into what you were saying, but also a whole other aspect. So many people, the vast majority of people I have met who are now anti-MLM but have previously been in MLMs have ADHD, and we have impulse control issues. And I can tell you that because of ADHD, hashtag because of ADHD, for a fact, if I had been pitched the Beachbody opportunity and then provided with income disclosure information, and then I had to wait even a day, I wouldn't have joined. I wouldn't have signed up. And that's because I do everything on impulse. I want it and I want it now. I was not a hard sell. When I was pitched the Beachbody business opportunity, I was like, sign me up with whatever package gets you the most commission. I'm so in. When can I start? Add me to the groups. Has it gone through yet? Has it gone through yet? Has it gone through yet? I am like instant gratification central. And I think that is an ADHD thing. It's probably the reason that so many people join MLMs. And so I think that a waiting period, and I want to emphasize, it's important that if you agree with this and you pitch it in your comment, that you say waiting period, because a cooling off period is something completely different. A cooling off period is essentially you would sign up and then you would have a guaranteed like return time frame, which most companies already have.
Yeah.
And that's a cooling off period. A waiting period would be where you can't even sign up until that time has passed. And I think it would be just industry changing. And another reason for that, not just the ADHD thing, but when I was in Beachbody, I was told that drinking holidays were the best time to recruit, the best time to slide into people's DMs, because if they're drunk, they're more likely, I'm serious, 4th of July, New Year's Eve, anytime when people are going to be, slugging wine to get through their family dinner or whatever it is, that's the time that you should be really messaging people and getting them into voice memos and talking to them to tell them about the opportunity, because they will make decisions based on how they feel.
So you were basically told to take advantage of drunk people.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if we put all of these MLM scenarios in like between like a man and a woman per se. Like, no doesn't mean no, it means not right now. Okay, like what if that happened with a guy and a girl at a party one night? Or, take advantage of drunk people. Like, why is this okay? Why is this normal?
Exactly. It certainly shouldn't be. And I think that that's another thing that, obviously a waiting period of any amount of time would really nip in the bud, in my opinion, because just give them enough time to sober up.
Yeah, right. I think too, I know we talked about this before too, how we both have like issues with hyperfixating on something. And so we'll like pick up a new hobby and go like all in with this hobby and perfect it, and then get tired of it and move on to something else. And so I think like people like us, when we sign up for MLMs, we dive in head first and we like hit the ground running, and we're talking to every single person that we know, the people closest to us. We're signing up, our grandma, our sister, our dog, everybody, because we're so excited about something. But if we just had those like 24, 48 hours to think about it before we signed up, then that like sunk cost fallacy is out of it. So, you're not as excited about it as you were initially because you don't have the money invested into it yet. So that you'll be able to think more clearly. And that was something that we talked about on Roberta's live show that you brought up, that I was just like, like
makes so much sense.
Yeah. Like these types of like resolutions to the problem, I guess, never even crossed my mind. Like, I know what the problems are, but in my head, it's like, well, if we just get rid of MLMs, then we won't have these problems anymore. I didn't even think of like some alternative to the problem, which I think brings us into another good point about the article that Robert Fitzpatrick, that he wrote about basically not giving them your opinion or not giving them your public comment, because then you're legitimizing the business model, and that is being counterproductive. So initially, before I read the article, I told you guys, I was like, I agree with him. Like, I don't think that you could make an MLM ethical. I think that any regulation put in place that would make it ethical would make it no longer an MLM. So it wouldn't be a business model. It would be a totally different structure. But then after reading it, like, yes, we all have the same end goal, but we have to take the steps necessary to get to that end goal, or that end goal is not going to happen. So if the FTC doesn't know that we have these issues and that these are such huge issues that are impacting people's lives so heavily, and we don't bring that to their attention, we're never going to get to the point of MLMs not existing. I mean, we may never get to that point anyway, but we need to put the regulations in place to hopefully at some point get as close as we can to that point.
Absolutely. I agree. And the thing is, I do agree with Bob. I agree that it's unfortunate if the proposed rule further ingrains MLM and further legitimizes it as a real business opportunity when it is not. However, so I think of it in kind of the same terms as a lot of other different aspects of activism. You're not going to get everything you want and everything that is ideal overnight. How long did it take for same-sex marriage to be completely legalized? How long were there domestic partnerships, for same-sex couples, which is a huge step above nothing at all, but it's not what any of them actually wanted. It was like a middle ground. A middle ground. And it eventually did lead to the legitimization of same-sex marriage. And I know it's not the same situation, but
it's the same idea.
The similar concept.
Yeah. So you have to have that middle ground, that stepping stone, if you will.
We have a chance to do this. We don't have any tools in our tool belt to delegitimize MLMs as business opportunities altogether.
Yeah. And if we don't comment on anything, then how are they even going to know that we don't want MLMs to exist?
Exactly. And that's the other thing. I think we can fall into this trap because our lives, yours and mine, almost revolve around the anti-MLM movement. But that just makes it easy for us to lose sight of the fact that the people who work at the FTC and the people who make these rules and regulations, they probably see the lobbyists from the DSA a lot more than they see our content online. They don't read every single fraud report that goes into their database. They don't necessarily know what we don't tell them specifically. And so I just think that that's one reason that it's so important, because it's easy to assume that they know what's going on and they just don't care. But I think a lot of it is that when they've asked this in the past of the public, they only got answers from people in Amway.
And that's what I was going to say too, is it could be, a number of things, but the fact that MLMs have changed so much over the last 10 years. And so they're becoming more and more predatory, like very, very quickly. And social media allows them to mask things as something that they're not. But also that within the last 3 to 5 years is when people really started talking about the opposing side, about MLMs, being predatory and, being anti-MLM.
Sure.
And
we've had so many documentaries that kind of sparked that conversation online, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah. And so I think before, the MLM voices were so much louder because they weren't as predatory. So they had more voices to be heard. But now that people are, becoming aware of all of the horrible tactics that they use and the damage that they're doing to families and individuals, that our voices could be louder now. And I've always said from day one, my goal with my channel was to, use my voice to create more voices so that all of our voices will be heard by the FTC to put these regulations in place to stop the predatory behaviors of MLM. So
I love that. Well, I will say I like just before I got on this call with you, I applied some cosmetic updates to the website. So it literally just changed how it looks. One of the things that I added to it was an interactive, like, comment building tool.
Oh, cool.
That was created as a Word document by an assistant professor at, I want to say, oh, I can't think of the school, but she's based in the Netherlands, and she put together just kind of a Word doc with questions, and how she had it formatted was answer these questions as, specifically as you can, and then erase the part that it's replacing
Okay.
in the Word doc. And I don't know. It's very good and it's a great idea, but I made it, I think, more user friendly. So I made it into like a form that you can fill out, and then you hit submit and it gives you like the text of your comment, and you can just copy and paste it
Okay.
for those that are really stuck.
Yeah. Are there any other alternatives or resolutions that you wanted to touch on? Just because that day when we were talking about it on Roberta's channel, my eyes were really open to like what the possibilities were that I'd never thought of before. So
Yeah.
if we could maybe just like jog some people's minds about what could possibly be in their comment.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it does kind of fall into the earnings claim category. But one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is how MLMs have programs in place to make sure that your first few months in the MLM are really successful, so that you can build up that sunk cost fallacy. And then by the time you're not making any money in month 4, because the bonus program is over or whatever, by then you've already invested so much and you've already built this business and you've already changed everything on your social media platforms and everything. And I think that maybe some regulations around how much they can ramp up those new member offers. Like I see a lot of Monate people saying, starter bonuses guaranteed $1,000 in your first month, or, not word for word, but things like that. The only 3 successful months that I had in my MLM were the first 3. And it was because I was doing the starter promotion. I was on special ramp up, getting bonuses for things that I wouldn't necessarily get a bonus for if I did a year later in the same company, just because I had just started. You can't make a recommendation to the FTC incorrectly. You know what I mean? Like if it doesn't necessarily end up applying to the earnings claim genre, if you will, it's still good information for them to have. And what's the harm in throwing it out there? So I plan on not only talking about how and why I think there should be a waiting period, but also, what can the FTC do to limit the startup bonuses that MLMs offer? Because that's a huge selling point as well, that get people in and then go away once they're stuck.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of the issues involve earnings claims without like directly involving earnings claims.
They do. There are a lot of health claims even that I hadn't even thought of that are like, well, I mean, that's kind of a lifestyle claim, right? Like, well, I joined this business opportunity and it cured my fibromyalgia because it's all oily.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily an earning, but
Right.
did it improve the quality of your life? Or are you telling people it's going to improve the quality of their life?
Right.
That is an inappropriate claim to make.
Yeah. And I think too, like one of the big things, at least within It Works, is the influencer application. So they have like an influencer application in their Instagram bio, and they say like, go to my Instagram bio to fill out the influencer application. I think that in itself is an earnings claim, because first of all, it's misleading. They're not signing up to be an influencer, but also you're implying that they're applying for a job, that they're going to apply for this job and receive income in return, but they're going to be paying you to promote these products on your page while you pay them more money to buy the products. Like,
yeah,
it's very misleading, and they have found such clever ways to get around it. Not to mention the fact that like a lot of these companies are paying influencers to promote their products, like bigger influencers with bigger followings, but then they have hundreds of thousands of distributors who are paying them to be able to promote their products. Like,
call themselves an influencer.
Right. Something's backwards here. Something doesn't make sense. Like, I talked to a girl who has over 100,000 Instagram followers, and she got paid by It Works to promote It Works products on her page. But there's so many people in like underneath of the top in It Works who have to run an auto shipment or sell a certain amount every month in order to like get a paycheck. So like, how is that okay?
And they have to sell the product. I mean, if you're an influencer, you do your ad.
Yeah. And that girl even told me, she was like,
so you're compensated for your time.
Right. She was like, I even remember like I shot high with them because I always like, you know, when I give companies my rates, I try to shoot high, and, you know, if they want to negotiate, whatever. She's like, I was shocked. They just took the highest price and ran with it. And I was like, to know that it's like that easy for them to like give money to these influencers that have a bigger following, but then all these people who are losing money and have no following, they're making them pay in order to hopefully get a paycheck, but probably not.
I don't know. Do you want me to like share my screen and go through the little comment builder thing that I mentioned?
Yeah, sure. And if you want to, at the same time or after, not at the same time, that'd be kind of hard. But go to the actual link where you leave a comment, because I know when I first checked it out, I was a little confused. There wasn't like submit, you know, like submit here or anything. It was like you actually go in and you click like leave a comment.
I'd love to.
So if you want to just, kind of walk through that.
Okay. So we'll go to trade regulations rule. You can see that, right?
Yep.
Go under trade regulations rule and then click on Federal Register Comment Crafter. That will take you to this nifty form that I created with, as I said, the help of Claudia Gross, and she worked on the questions. She wrote everything on here. I just kind of put it into a form format to make it a little more user friendly than a Word document. So you can just answer these questions however you feel most comfortable answering them. I joined Beachbody. This is not one that I'm going to submit. Let's just say that. So earnings claims. The FTC is interested in deceptive earnings claims. Please tell them whether the distributor who contacted you made income promises and what you were told personally or online, or what you read on social media. Describe here, for example, promises such as a side income, a full income, being rich in 2 years, being able to stay at home with your children, adding substantially to your pension, etc. I was told I would make money, which was a lie. You can add in lifestyle claims. All of these are optional fields. None of this is required. These are not even the specific questions that they're asking. These are just like writing prompts, basically, to get your juices flowing. She asks about lifestyle claims, business costs. I lost $4,300.
Good time.
Yep. She talks about how the sales portion of being in an MLM affected your paycheck versus the recruiting portion, actual outcomes as opposed to what was promised to you. recommendations and ideas. I added a spot for adding your email address if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, but that is not, it's not an FTC newsletter or anything like that. It is Michelle Carpenter's newsletter. So it's completely optional. And then once you have answered the questions that you want to answer, you just hit next. And on this page, need to mess with the format just a little bit, but in theory, you should be able to then look at the preview of all of this, copy it, and I'll show you where to paste it. So from here, you would go to the sidebar, which will be a sidebar by the time this video comes out because I'm going to fix it. You go down to this direct link to the Federal Register public comment form, and it opens up where you can put in your comment. You can format it however you want. You can leave it in this format, you know, get rid of the empty spaces, whatever you want to do. Hearing from you is the most important part of this. It does not have to look pretty. Here is where you can also add files. You can add up to 20 files or up to 20 megabytes, whichever you hit first, whichever maxes out first. I believe attachment requirements, 10 megabytes or 20 files.
Okay.
And it shows you what kind of thing you can attach. Probably one of the best ways to do this if you have a whole lot of receipts, a whole lot of screenshots, examples to give of people promising things that they can't follow through on. If it's more than 20 files, you might drop them all in a public Google Drive and then share the link. That might be easiest. Otherwise, I think Alonda, the recovering Hun bot, one of the things that she's done is I think put a whole bunch of pictures in a Word document and just upload that one Word doc. So there are ways around the limits here. You can comment anonymously and it will not ask you, or it's not required to put in your email or anything like that.
Okay.
And then you would just click, I read and understand these statements above and hit submit comment. And then it goes public immediately. It's included in the total count, I think maybe the next day, but it is really easy. And I'm just doing everything that I can to make it easier because I understand having ADHD, and I think that a lot of us do. We have issues with executive dysfunction. You might be sitting here thinking, I know how important this is. I know why we should do it. I just can't make myself do it.
Yeah, that's my life every day.
Yeah. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about while I'm sharing my screen on the actual website itself?
No, I love that you did that because that actually is not where I saw the original, like leave a comment thing. So I was probably in the wrong place. So I'm glad.
If you go to, I think this main link that I have on here goes to just the text of that. And then you just click submit a formal comment. If this is the page you end up on. What I did was I just created a direct link to the submit a formal comment button.
Yeah, because that's what I saw. So I thought you had to go down and like click on the comments and then submit it through there. So that's why I was like, yeah, maybe we should walk through that. But yeah, you made it so much easier.
I'm so glad.
Okay, so I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Gosh, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. We have 27 days until they close up comments. Oh, one thing, the weekend before they close comments, I say we, and when I say we, I mean all of the people that have been contributing to this website and working with me anyway, to get the word out about the ANPR and submitting public comments and everything like that. We have decided to have a 24-hour marathon streaming event leading up to the close of these comments. So we're working out the details right now. I'm going to try and have some kind of streamlined way for people to get from one video to the next, but essentially just a whole lot of content creators are signing up for slots in this 24 hours to just go live for an hour or two, do reactions or MLM horror stories or whatever their niche is, but do it live and as part of our marathon, just as a way to get people excited and as a big final reminder that, okay, now's the time. If you've been putting it off, do it now. And so that is going to be on Saturday, May 7th and Sunday, May 8th. So it'll be from Saturday morning through Sunday morning at I think 8 a.m. Pacific.
Cool. And I'll leave all of this stuff linked down below too, so that
Awesome.
if it's wrong, we'll just link it.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on and answering questions. You helped me a lot too. You know, I've been falling behind trying to stay healthy. You're like, yeah, we've come up with this 24-hour thing. I'm like, yeah, for sure we have.
I've definitely heard of that.
I'm a little behind in the group chat, but I try. All right, you guys, that's going to wrap up our Zoom call for today. I hope you guys learned a lot and it wasn't too boring. I know it's kind of just like a blah subject, but it's so important. And I know a lot of the things that we talked about, I didn't realize before I had talked to Michelle about this kind of thing. So I loved having her on and having her answer all of these questions that I too had when I first started learning about this public commentary opportunity. I hope you guys did learn something. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Michelle. She's more than willing to answer any questions that you guys have, and she's so excited to talk about this. So don't feel bad blowing up her inbox because she loves this entire movement, and she's such a good asset to our movement. I don't even know what to say. I'm being so awkward right now, but she's such a valuable person, such a valuable asset to the anti-MLM community, and she has so much to bring to the table. So don't hesitate to reach out to her. She would be way more help than I would at this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the post notification bell if you'd like to be notified every time that I post. If you'd like to join my Facebook group called The Light at the End of the Pyramid, it's just a group of people who are trying to navigate life post MLM. I will also leave the link to Michelle's MLM Change website down below. And if you'd like to follow me on all social media platforms, you can find me at the Jessica Hickson. Other than that, I love you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. I'm going to stop talking now.
Moving slower.